business journalist for around 3 years. I wrote like a variety of stories on about various stuff, and one of which won the Polestar Award. And during this period itself, I was traveling. I decided to go on this journey across India, hitchhiking on trucks, because I thought that truck drivers, as a people, their contributions to society as well as our economy, because they pretty much constitute the backbone of our economy. I thought that it had not been adequately documented or appreciated. So I thought that I should possibly do something about it, and that led me to embark on this journey, which was very kindly enabled by my editor at Outlook Business, who said that why don't you, write a six-part series for us based on your journey, and you can draw your salary even while you're traveling. So that really worked out for me. A lot of things fell into place, and eventually a publishing house approached me. They read some of my articles and they approached me to write a full-length book. And after that, I decided, I mean, I have UPSC, like civil services was on the back of my mind, but in my early 20s, it did not seem like I wanted to explore more stuff, because that is the time when you have some scope for experimentation. After that, you slowly, you get into the usual course of life, So I thought I should experiment a bit. But after around 3 years or so, I got my book deal also, and I thought it's time I should possibly quit my job, because I wanted to prepare for UPSC as well as I had the book to write. So I thought I couldn't manage all those things together. And so yeah, I prepared largely from home. I was based in Mumbai. I did not take coaching as such. I signed up for test series for answer writing and stuff, but I did not take coaching. I largely prepared from home in Mumbai. Around 2 to 3 hours I used to devote to my book, which was also served as a useful distraction from, because there's so much to study for UPSC, that those 2 3 hours were really precious for me, when I could actually, relax and do my thing. So that's how it worked out. And yeah, last year I got 378. I got into the Indian Railway Account Service, but my mind was set on joining the Indian Foreign Service, which was my first preference. So I thought I should give it one last shot before calling it quits. And thankfully, things worked out. I mean, as we all know, luck is a hugely important factor in this examination. Lots of things have to fall into place for you to secure a good rank. And I'm thankful that they did this time, and I was able to secure a decent rank. And I will be joining the Indian Foreign Service soon. So really looking forward to that.
That was quite a journey, and yeah, that sounds very interesting. So yeah, moving on to Prakhar, what's your path and how did you go for it?
So mine was more of a conventional journey, I would say, compared to what Rajat just stated. While I was at college, I was very sure that I was not going to pursue civil services. That was something I was very confident of, and eventually, as I was exploring things at colleges and I was looking at the various career opportunities that were there as an undergraduate student. So by the fourth year, I had made up my mind. I realized that I had to prepare for civil services. I did not want to. After 10 years, I did not want to have that regret of not preparing for these services. So that was the beginning when I was preparing for placements, and then while I was working at the company, now I joined the job because, as Rajat said, I also wanted to be sure that I really wanted to be in civil services, and the other options that I had after graduating from the college, those were not my calling. I just wanted to make sure. So once I entered the corporate job, my goal was to stay for 1 year at least and then decide what I wanted to do next. But it was then in few months I was able to figure out that probably getting into civil services would be a better opportunity for me. And soon I quit the job and I shifted to Delhi. I was there for a few years and I enrolled into coaching, but I soon realized that it was not worth my time. And then in my third attempt, I was able to get into the services in the forest services, and in civil services, I was allocated to Indian Defense Account Services. So soon, I knew I had to try it one more time before I was going to settle down. So then I attempted again this year, and yes, as luck always plays a good part in this examination process. So yes, things fell into place. Some things happened, some good things happened, and I learned a lot. And eventually, I managed to get a rank of 90.
That's really great. So now we would like to dive deep into your preparation strategies. Like, can you give a brief timeline and plans for your preparation? Let's start with Rajat.
So timeline, as far as it's concerned, I mean, you have to allocate at least 2 years of your life, even if you assume that you're going to crack it in the first attempt. So you have to allocate at least 2 years. That is the minimum amount of time you will have to devote, which is 1 year of preparation for the prelims, mains, etc., and then 1 year, which is the examination cycle itself. So that is how that is mentally. If whoever is like looking to prepare, you have to be mentally prepared to allocate at least 2 years. That is the minimum. And so yeah, as far as when to begin, I always advise aspirants who are just starting out with the journey. You firstly start off with Indian polity, because that is a subject which we do not get enough exposure on. Even in IITK, you don't get knowledge of, say, constitutional. What is India's constitutional structure? What are the provisions? How is everything really organized? So start off with M. Lakshmikant by Indian Polity by M. Lakshmikant. That's a great book. And if that book interests you, if it makes you think that, all right, this is really interesting, I want to know more, then possibly civil services is for you. Often because Indian polity can also be a bit dry, say, compared to history, or there's a lot of interesting characters, lots of interesting stories in history, etc. Polity can be a bit dry in the sense it's all about articles and legal provisions. So if that's but it is very, very important for a civil servant to understand that, because without that you do not really know how to behave, because constitutional morality is what really guides you as a civil servant throughout your career. So you need to really understand that very well. So that is the first step. Apart from that, I always suggest you read the syllabus first. The main syllabus, you have to read it completely. You have to understand it completely. You need to internalize it completely. You need to so basically it is very important, because newspaper reading, which is an integral part of the preparation, you need to understand what is relevant in the newspaper and what is not. So around only 20-25% of the newspaper will actually be relevant. Most of it is not relevant, though that is changing. For instance, this year apparently the prelims that happened today, they have asked like so many questions on sports, which was unprecedented. So I always used to leave the sports page because it wasn't relevant. But UPSC is known for springing surprises. It all keeps changing its exam pattern, also constantly surprising aspirants. So yeah, try to get a sense of what is relevant by understanding the syllabus. And then you have the standard book lists that which you will find online, which are mostly the standard books for various subjects like history, geography. And you make a proper strategy, in the sense, if you say have 8 months or 9 months before your prelims, then you need to have a broad idea of by what time you will be done with what part of the syllabus. And I would also suggest that do not prepare for prelims and mains separately. That distinction is no longer very relevant, because when you prepare for the mains, you are also preparing for the prelims. So keep an integrated approach as far as possible. And apart from that, apart from having a broad long-term strategy, you also need to live life day to day in this exam. You need to know what you have to do on that particular day. Because if you start thinking, because there's so much uncertainty, so much unpredictability, that if you start thinking, if you start living in the past or in the future, that is the source of all anxiety and mental health issues. Anxiety only lies when you live in the past or in the future. You have to live in the present. You have to live life day to day. You need to understand, okay, this is my target for today, this is what I'm going to do, while at the same time having a broad key for a few months कि इतने महीने में मैं इतना complete करूंगा. That sort of approach also needs to be there. So that is some of the broad pointers I would give for people who are just starting out on this journey. Of course, there's a lot more to be learned, and this is something that aspirants need to figure out for themselves often. I mean, we can only give you broad guidance, but it is something you need to really understand by yourself. What is relevant, what is not, what do I need to do? And it's a constant learning process. And with, when you give the first attempt and then the second one, you also learn, where did you go wrong and where can I improve? So it's a constant learning process, but this I think will hold you in good stead for someone who is just starting out.
Yeah, now I'd like Prakhar to say on this.
So for me, the timeline was that I knew that this is when the prelims is going to happen. So I basically backtracked my preparation, as in I'll need these last 3 months for revising for prelims, and now I have these many months remaining, so I have to fit in the optional some in there somewhere, and that I also have to fit in all the GS general studies topics there. So by doing this, I had a broad idea about what my next year was going to look like, but having such long-term goals is not entirely feasible, and it's not going to be very productive either because we tend to postpone. So I also had some weekly goals in the sense that I would read something, I would revise it on the weekend, and then move on. So this basically sort of streamlined my preparation. As I when Rajat said that he began with Indian polity, that's a great way. For me, I started with Indian economy majorly because I was not entirely I had not read this subject as such, and secondly, I was told, which I agree with as well, that if you read Indian economy in the starting days, the advantage is that some more sections of newspapers start to make sense to you, which is also true for polity. So I began with Indian economy. I would read anything for, let's say, 6 days. On the seventh day, I would revise this because there's something that I believe in is that you need to revise anything that you read. You need to revise it within 7 days. Otherwise, it's like you're starting fresh. So that is something I would keep in mind. I would cover my weekly goals, and they would have to fall in place in the long term strategy that I had for myself. And then again, different people are going to struggle with different subjects. You'll have to devote some time more for some subject and sometime less for others. That is something which is going to be decided by individuals. But yeah, do make sure. But as far as timeline is concerned, one has to make sure that there's a long-term strategy. You cannot be taking as many days as you want to in a leisurely fashion, because because you have limited time and the examination date is set.
Sure. And yeah, as Rajat said that everyone has their own journey, and our motivation to bring two speakers to this session was that only that the aspirants from our college or from other various colleges who have joined, they get to hear what your journey has been and what all different paths did you choose. So following up on that, I would like to ask similar question that can you please tell subject-wise books for GS and your optional subject? And what do we need to read whole book or any specific topic? And you can also cover regarding NCRT or books or editorials or journals that you followed along with your preparation.
So yeah, as far as the
So-
book list, sorry, you may take it if you like.
No. Okay, sure. So for me, we'll start with the basics, the art and culture. There's the NCRT which you refer, especially the last four chapters of class 11th NCRT Introduction to Indian Art, and then you supplement it with Nitin Sanghania. This is what I did. For the ancient and medieval history, I started with the NCRTs, but then I soon realized, at least from the prelims perspective, Lucen's GK book was going to be helpful. NCRT, you could refer to old NCRT or even new NCRT is good enough, at least going with what the trend is these days. And then you have to supplement it with the History of Modern India by Spectrum Publishers. And moving on, is the next topic, which is society. There's a book by R. Senthil Kumar, which many aspirants refer to, which I also give a reading, but since my optional is sociology, I was comfortable. The core NCRTs, especially of class 11th and 12th, become important. If you have to, you could supplement physical geography wala part with GC, but going with it, not as important as it was, say, a few years earlier. And
Prakhar, your voice is, I guess, breaking. So
I guess till that we can
okay,
start.
so was I audible with the GS1 section?
yeah, you were audible. Yeah, so
Okay.
please continue.
Yeah, so I think you're done with GS1. Maybe Rajat could take up with GS2, and we would add whatever new sources we have.
Yeah. So GS2, of course, Lakshmikant is the Bible. If you are just starting out, just read that. You don't really need to read anything else. You can read some of the NCRT books. Personally, I did not read many of the NCRT books. Do not fall into the trap of reading all the NCRT books. Okay, that is one thing I would suggest, because many people, they start reading everything from class 6 to class 12, all the NCRT books, which may not be entirely useful. Because in this exam, the important thing to remember is, uh, anything that you are reading, you need to understand what is the cost benefit analysis. You need to understand, you're going to put this much time, what is exactly the benefit you're going to get out of this, because time is of supreme value. So every moment of your time is precious, which you need to spend in that sense. So NCRTs, you can read a couple of the ones, say working of the constitution. There are one or two which are useful for polity. Apart from that, international relations, I started off with, just to get a sense of the subject, I started off with Pax Indica by Shashi Tharoor. That I found a very readable book, which gave you a sense of the history of Indian foreign policy as well as how it is developing. So it's a decent book, not like a one-stop shop for everything for UPSC, but it's a good introductory book. And for aspirants who are preparing, who are thinking of preparing right now, right? I would say like these book lists, etc., you will find in various sites. They are all out there. But right now, what you should do is prepare. Firstly, cultivate the habit of reading the newspaper, which is very, very important. So Hindu, I would recommend the Indian Express over the Hindu actually. I think it's much more relevant these days for civil services. So read the Indian Express every day and read some interesting non-fiction books which are relevant to UPSC. For instance, you can read India After Gandhi. It's a very interesting book, well-written book, and it gives you a sense of India's development after independence. So these kind of non-fiction books you can take up, like those who are on campus right now and who are thinking, okay, I will take the UPSC after graduation. So these are the things you can do right now to build up your knowledge base. But apart from that, for example, in GS4 ethics, there is a standard book called Lexicon, which people refer to. But ethics is also something which you need to, it only comes from practice, because there are a lot of case studies, there's all kinds of questions that are asked, which you have to think on the spur of the moment. You need presence of mind in the exam to understand and answer those questions of case studies. So you need to have a good grasp of the fundamentals, as well as you need to understand in a practical situation how would you apply those fundamentals. So you need to understand both the theory and what is the application of whatever ethical lessons you've learned and so on. So yeah, those are the books you can read up. GS3 is quite vast. The book list is also quite big. I don't want to scare aspirants away with rattling away the names of books. They might think twice after for taking it up again.
Yeah, like many students put their question like what they should do right now in the college years
Yeah,
that will help
exactly.
them in pursuing UPSC.
Yeah, read the newspaper every day. Make it a habit. Moment you are up with your chai, you should have the newspaper by your side, and that is the best thing you can do for UPSC. And apart from that, read interesting non-fiction books like say Homo sapiens. This one, Sapiens. That one is quite interesting. It gives you a sense of how humanity has developed. You can read books like India After Gandhi for an Indian context. You can read books like Pax Indica which is also very readable. It's not exactly a UPSC book, so per se. So all these kinds of books you can read up. That is how you can best spend your time on campus if you have UPSC aspirations.
Yeah,
Uh, I would like to add something to it.
yeah, sure.
Yeah. So for those of you who are preparing for prelims starting 2023 onward, it's good if you start with non-fiction books just to get into the mold of it. And if I particularly found this list which is there on insightsonindia.com. It's a website which basically helps you prepare for this exam. There's a list by an IS officer. It's a list of 50 non-fiction books, and I found that most of the suggestions given in those were good. So just adding it as far as non-fiction books, reading non-fiction books is considered.
Yeah, now I would like to go to the optional subject. Like what factors a student should consider before deciding their optional subject? Rajat, you go first.
Okay, so optional, I compare usually the optional subject with like choosing a life partner. Okay, so it's going to be a subject you are going to spend a lot of time with. So it needs to engage you properly. You should be interested in the subject. Otherwise, the preparation becomes even more arduous than it already is. If the subject itself does not particularly interest you, so do not. I would suggest do not go by whatever the wisdom of the market is. There are various trends that keep coming. कि ये साल pub ad अच्छा है, ये साल वो अच्छा है. So there are a lot of trends and people will advise you all kinds of stuff. But that is why I say in this exam, it is very important to know yourself very well. You need to understand what do you like, who are you exactly, and that is very important. And this comes right from the optional itself. So if you follow कि तुम्हारे दोस्त ने ले लिया ये optional, चलो मैं भी पीछे पीछे ले लेता हूँ, then that is not the correct approach. You should really figure out. For instance, my optional was history, and I took it only because I was really interested in history. And I thought चलो बैठे बैठे अच्छा हिस्ट्री की पढ़ाई भी हो जाएगी, कुछ नॉलेज मिल जाएगा. एग्जाम क्लियर हो गया तो that's a different matter. But I actually enjoyed reading the subject, so that was one big factor. And this year I got the highest in history optional, which I did not expect. But because it really interested me, and that is the main factor I would say while choosing. Apart from that, yeah, you can take if there's nothing that particularly interests you, then you can do a cost benefit analysis of what is the length of the syllabus, what has been the marks like. You can do a systematic analysis if that's what if you're indecisive about what to select exactly. You can take a look at the syllabus, you can compare, and then take a call for yourself. But do not listen to anybody. You have to make up your mind, because nobody else is going to do the studying for you. You have to do it yourself. So make up your own mind, and decide accordingly.
Yeah, Prakhar, what was your approach?
Yeah. One of the most important thing is that you have to be comfortable with the subject. It should not scare you away. You're going to read the subject for at least a few months, and you have to be interested in the subject to make sure that this process is not taxing. So interest is definitely one thing. Now, how do you know which subject would interest you? Because not every subject is something which you have read about or you know. So for that, go through the syllabus of all the optional subjects that you have. You'll be able to easily eliminate many of these subjects right there on the spot. There'll be some subjects which you'll be more comfortable with. You might want to take a look at the toppers video, or when there are introductory lectures also available for some of these subjects. This will help you figure out which subject you are more interested in case you don't know already. And yes, if you're still confused between few subjects, you could do the cost benefit analysis. The syllabus. You can, if you delve deeper, you look into the blogs of people who have cleared the exam with those subjects. You know what kind of preparation is required, what kind of time you'll need to devote if you're opting teacher into making your decision. And at the end, but the most important thing is going to be that you have to be very interested in that subject, because you're going to devote a lot of time studying it.
Sure. Moving on to the next question. In our questionnaire form, there are many doubts of students regarding the coaching. Like, should they opt for a coaching, or they should go for self-study? And also, there was a bit of philosophical question that how to decide whether UPSC is their call or not, and what factors might lead to decide that. So, starting with Rajat.
So I'll answer the second question first. Whether UPS is your call or not. I mean, see, many people come into this thinking it is their call. In couple of years, it really, there's a lot of doubts that start cropping up whether it is actually my call or not. And you need to really. That's why I'm saying, you need to really know yourself. That is the most important thing, and that will only come from introspection. But at the level of, say you are in the 4th year, and say you've gotten a job, and you are wondering, okay, should I take this job up, or should I just deep dive into the preparation already? So I would suggest, just to for me, it's like I don't like to have regrets in my life. So that's why I took the call of to choosing to work for some time, just to get a sense of what it is that you are abandoning to pursue civil services. So possibly you can, like Prakhar did, you can possibly join for a few months, get a sense of what it is like, because 1 or 2 years here and there, it's not a big deal. It's not a life changing thing that if you work for a year and then start preparing. It's not going to matter a lot in the larger scheme of things. So if you are in doubt, then just decide by acting on it, by say taking up a job and then figuring it out whether this life is for me or not. But if you're sure, then I don't even need to convince you, or you don't need to. Nobody else needs to convince you. I'm sure you will possibly not even sit for placement. You will directly go for you preparation. So, but if you're in doubt, I would say start working. You can, because it is always possible to prepare while working. It's not like one weekend. If you are really motivated, that is actually a good way to find out whether you are motivated enough to prepare or not. If you are taking the time out from your corporate life to prepare and to read, then it means that there is that spark in you, there is that motivation in you to do this. So it's also a way to discover that. So that would be my advice as far as, if those who are confused about it. And about coaching, I would say that if after graduation, say there are a bunch of your friends who all decided, all right, let's go to Rajendra Nagar and start preparing, and all of them are have signed up for coaching, then go ahead. I would say join coaching. If you can afford it, go ahead, join coaching. If you have friends along, if you have a nice group along, because it really helps to keep each other motivated, to help solve each other's doubts, and then you are in a nice flow of things, and there's no sort of struggle, because when I prepared, I was all alone. I was in Mumbai does not have much of a UPSC culture, nor did I know anybody who was preparing. I just decided, okay, let me do this. So in these cases, it can be a lonely journey. You don't know who to ask, what to do, when. And but if you have that sort of flow where immediately after graduation you're joining a coaching with your friends, then go ahead. But I would not say that coaching is essential for this exam. In fact, not at all. It's not essential at all. You can very well get by with self-study. There are a ton of resources online, like Insights on India, like Prakhar mentioned. That's a great resource for UPSC aspirants. And so like polity, etc. So these coaching classes often, like for prelims, the UPSC has made them pretty much irrelevant. So nobody really, there is no value addition that coaching classes will give you for prelims, okay? Because UPSC plucks question from out of thin air. Nobody knows where they are pluck those questions from, and they keep changing the pattern, the subjects that the questions are asked from. And coaching classes are constantly just trying to catch up with what UPSC is doing, at which they fail miserably. So it's not really necessary. For prelims, you need to have sound fundamentals. That is most important. You need to have a good grasp on polity, the concepts. And since in IIT, usually there is a focus on concepts. Usually there is a focus to understand things conceptually rather than, otherwise. So I think it will be good if you focus on those concepts, and that is what will help you crack the questions in prelims. So coaching is not necessary for prelims. For answer writing, you definitely require test series. That is a must, I would say. You have to practice, and you need to get your answer sheets evaluated. So if you count that as coaching, then yes, please go ahead and do that, because that is crucial to clear this exam. And similarly for mock interview, uh, for interview need mock interviews. That is also very important. But for prelims, you can easily give coaching a skip. No worries.
Moving on to Prakhar.
Yeah. So I also believe that coaching is not essential for preparing for this exam. And I'm saying this as someone who enrolled into one of the coachings at Old Rajendra Nagar. I barely went there for 2 or 3 months, and I found that it was more of a waste of a time for me. And since I had people who were preparing alongside me, the other requirement that coaching fulfills, that is giving you a dedicated or motivated group of people you can prepare with, that was also irrelevant for me. So I soon figured that taking up coaching, at least for the general studies part of this exam, is not very good idea if you're if you have a set of people you can prepare with. Self studies, eventually you'll be studying on your own, you'll be making your own notes, you'll be figuring out what is the part where you have to put in more effort. So that's as far as GS is concerned. Then then for optional, if the subject is something which you're not entirely comfortable with, and it's something out of your comfort zone, you're trying it for the new time, you might want to enroll into a coaching so that you know what actually goes behind the text. There's a lot of subtext, there's a lot of other things which are going in when a teacher teaches you those things. For example, in sociology, when you're reading the text versus when a professor is telling you and giving you the subtext, the context, or the other things which are required to understand what is said by someone and why is it that helps. at least for me. Now, for the test series, yes, I believe test series is something you cannot afford to not join, because practicing and getting your test papers evaluated, getting the feedback, improving upon it is something you'll definitely need in this exam. Same goes for mock interviews at the interview stage. The second part, if UPSC is your calling or not, I did it by eliminating the other option I had. The other option was very clearly getting into a job, and so I got into one, and I soon figured that that was not for me. Then second is as a civil servant, there are many things you would be doing, and it's not always the glamorous things that are there. So you have to be. Then there's the Then there's the red tape or those kind of things. So you have to be realistic in your vision of UPSC as to what your life will be after you have, let's say, gotten selected for the services. And if you want that kind of work, if you want to do that kind of a work, you could consider preparing for civil services. But at the end of the day, be very motivated if you're preparing for. As Rajat said, you are going to devote at least 2 years of your life while preparing for this exam. So make sure that you are motivated.
Yeah, like Rajat mentioned, like on considering on online material. So which online materials would you recommend for the students? Prakhar, you go
And
first.
just adding on to that, like many students have written this, that there are many Telegram channels which are providing materials online. So can students rely on that, and what can be the distractions on?
Okay.
Yeah, Prakhar, you.
Okay. So for online material, there are it depends upon what you are looking for. Now there are basic books which are there for the preparatory part. Those are something you'll get on your own. For other things, for example, the current affairs, there are magazines which you could directly get from the website of the coaching. Most of them are published for free anyways. Then if you want to prepare for current affairs through websites, there are good websites like Insights on India or Forum IS or IS Baba. These are some websites you could browse through. You could find what section or what update from them is something which helps in your preparation. And it is especially the GS3 where you'll find that content or notes from these kind of websites are going to help you. Now, there's no exhaustive list of how or which material will help you, and I don't think I should comment upon it majorly. But yes, you could refer to these websites, find the sections which you're more interested in or which you think will help your preparation more, and go ahead with it.
So as far as I was concerned, I see one important thing with these online resources is that there's so much of them that you really need to decide which one you want to use and just use that one. If you say use notes from multiple places, you have material, you have books piled up in your room, that is not going to help. You need to decide which book, which resource you want to use. For instance, I used largely Insights on India because they used to give me say daily current affairs, what is happening daily, just a small summary of whatever is relevant, and then daily quizzes in which you can solve say a few questions, and basically it builds up your confidence. If you solve these questions and you get say 4 out of 5 right, or then it really helps you, it motivates you, keeps you motivated every day, which is what this game is all about. It is about keeping yourself motivated every day, living life day to day. Because if you start thinking of the future, or if you start thinking of how much I have to study, then it is very easy to get overwhelmed and demotivated. So these websites helped me in that way, in the sense daily I had something. Okay, this quiz I need to solve today. These daily current affairs I need to read today. So I would recommend Insights on India. It's very good. I can't say I've explored the other options, but I would recommend. I had a good experience over there.
Yeah,
So,
come now.
Yeah, sorry, we can go on. Sorry.
So now coming to your days in IITK, like how was that helpful in achieving your goals and cracking UPSC? Rajat, you go.
Yeah, so can't say that. I mean, it was definite. Like days at IITK, of course, they are like most memorable and most utopian days in my mind. Like when life was very simple and but it did help me. Like in college, I used to be involved in quizzing a lot. So I was the quiz club coordinator. So quizzing itself lends itself well to UPSC, right? Because I was generally interested in all sorts of useless trivia. So in UPSC, you need to have an interest in learning about all kinds of random stuff. So that helped me a lot. My quizzing experience helped me a lot. At the same time, I think IITK just prepares you and gives you the confidence that you can take up any challenge that comes your way. That is the main takeaway from my IITK experience, because when you study 1 or 2 days before an exam and you don't know anything and you still manage to clear it, it gives you the confidence. Okay, that if there's 1 month's preparation, then possibly I'll do better. So that is the sort of confidence IITK gave me. And of course it helps you having a circle of friends who can say guide you now and then, who can help you in some ways. That also really helps. So I would say played an integral part in this UPSC journey also, though it is a lonely one. At the end of the day, you have to do it yourself, but this sort of solid foundation that IITK gives you really helps.
Yeah, Prakhar, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, when you're from ITK, you know that you have got a very solid safety net. At times, you'll feel if you're on the right path or whether you should be preparing for the exam, and that's when you know that you're not going to suffer a lot if you eventually do not crack the exam. So that's a very good safety net, and you'll feel at least motivated, or you'll feel safe when you're preparing for the exams, given that kind of a background. And it's always good to, and when you're at a college, you know people, and it's always good to have uh, people or friends who share the similar goal, and that becomes a close knit group. And if it continues into preparation, that's good for everyone in the group.
Sure. So yeah, I had a question in the chat box from a particular student. So he wanted to ask Rajat that what was your call in joining IFS and not IAS? Since you got such a good rank, so
Yeah.
you could have joined IAS, but what made you
Yeah.
decide that? Yeah.
So actually, for me, it was quite clear right from the beginning. I did not have IAS in my mind while I started preparing. It was clear to me right from the beginning that my goal is to join the Indian Foreign Service. I mean, of course, because I had my priorities. I mean, I knew that this is what would suit my temperament, who I am, and that is very important. That's why I keep repeating this. You need to really know yourself in many ways for this exam. So because this kind of clarity also helps at the interview stage when you are talking about your justification, you are justifying your situation to the board members. You need to have that clarity. But for as far as the reasons are concerned, see, I was very much interested in international relations. I really love the subject, and I am interested in learning new languages. Like I learned Spanish a couple of years back out of my own initiative because I enjoy learning new languages. It really opens up your mind in many ways. I like traveling a lot. I mean, my travel book has also made that clear. I hope. So I like traveling. I like exploring different cultures, and that is the lifestyle that thought would be appropriate for me, as who I am as a person. And of course, the privilege of representing India to the world. When you travel abroad as an IFS officer, often you are India. You are the embodiment of India, and that is an enormous privilege, which was very attractive. So all these factors made me choose that.
That's quite interesting. Yeah, earlier Prakhar talked about keeping yourself motivated, because at the end of the day you are eventually going to prepare in your own room, in your own environment. So what things can any aspirant do to keep himself or herself motivated for this long goal, and what things help you relax?
Uh, Staying motivated for the exam is something which is going to be very personal. It's a subjective thing for everyone. We all have our own motivations. There's always a particular reason for which we started the preparation in the first place. So whenever I used to feel demotivated, I would go back to the reason I had my reasons to prepare for the services, and those reasons help me stay motivated. Secondly, there are other things. For example, you're taking up quizzes, you're giving your test papers, and getting good marks or getting your preparation validated through those mediums also helps you stay motivated. You, as Rajat said, it's important to know who you are. So you have to know what are the reasons which are making you prepare for civil services. And whenever you feel demotivated while preparing for the exams, just go back to those reasons, and you'll know that you have to continue preparing or stay motivated.
Anything you would like to add, Rajat, on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, just live in the present. That is the best thing, and not just for UPSC. Yeah. This is for life itself. To keep yourself motivated in any sort of circumstances, do not dwell on the past and do not dream about the future too much. Just stay in the present. Keep yourself grounded. Keep keep yourself daily goals and weekly goals, like Prakhar mentioned, and monthly goals. Just not these do not have to be cast in stone. Yeah, I have to do this, and if I don't do this, then that can only be a source of stress. So keep these broad goals, like your daily goals, you should try and meet every day. But say your weekly or monthly goals, even if you slip up slightly, it's no big deal. As long as you know, because the main thing is, why people suffer from demotivation. One is that they're overwhelmed by the sheer amount of preparation that they have to do in the future, and the sheer amount of stuff they have to remember that they've studied in the past. So both of these things contribute to a lot of stress. How will I be able to do it? And one way to deal with this stress is to make a nice Excel sheet. Say, okay, this is the syllabus I'm going to finish by this day. This is the syllabus. And then suddenly everything seems manageable. Everything seems doable. And yeah, and you will often find yourself motivated to, okay, this I'm done with this much. I'm done with 20% of my goal. Try to gamify it also if you like try to set yourself these targets. That is a good way to, like, all the startups etc are also doing on through UX design to keep their people. So you also can make a nice little Excel sheet for yourself in which you are tracking your progress, and this stuff can help you, I think. Yeah, that would be my advice as far as keeping yourself motivated is concerned.
Yeah. I guess Rajat has worked in corporate and Prakhar also. So like, how is corporate life different from civil that you will be joining?
And I mean, many students here are, will be sitting for their placements, and many students from our batch will be sitting for placements next year. So, should they opt for corporate to just have an experience, or you would suggest that if they have the gut feeling for UPSC, then they should just go for it? Like, what difference did corporate life of 1 or 2 years make to you?
So see, I would say that go for your placement, just focus on your placement, because that is the immediate thing on your hand. I mean, there's no point dreaming about the future. If you're 100% sure, and if say since the second year itself you're preparing, you're reading the Hindu every day, and if you're that motivated, then obviously just don't think about placement. Don't even sign up for it. Just go for UPSC. But if you're even slightly undecided, try and do well in your placements. Because one thing that corporate life helps you with is it also helps you with savings, because UPSC is not exactly a cheap process. It's not coaching itself can be expensive if you decide to avail of it. The notes, the books, it's not exact. If you're moving to Delhi, then the expense, the rent, it's not exactly cheap. So 1 year of corporate life also can build a substantial, decent amount of savings, which you can rely on later. That is one important factor, the financial aspect. Apart from that, it will bring clarity to your own mind, and it will dispel all the doubts and any notion of a regret that you might later have. Yeah, I should have joined the some consultancy only. I would have been doing this or doing that. So just it'll help you bring clarity to your own mind. So these are the things. As far as how it is different from civil services, see, how I look at it is that, of course, I haven't entered the services exactly. So of course life is the ground reality of stuff is always different from what you expect. So you have to be prepared for surprises at every step. But as far as I know right now, I would say, ultimately you need to recognize, okay, if I'm doing this job, what is the purpose behind this? What is the rationale of whatever I'm doing? So in a private company, often the rationale is, say, you are working so that you can add to the bottom line of your company, right? Your existence is based on the fact that you are adding value to the company, which is adding to the bottom line of the company. So your interests are subsumed. So all you are really doing is serving the interests of your company wherever you are. But in civil services, like, that is what motivated me, at least. In civil services, you can say that the whatever you do, the impact of it is often felt by much of the wider society, and the it's I think in that way it can be more fulfilling. But of course, this motivation varies from person to person. But that is one fundamental way in which life in corporate is different from life in the civil service.
Yeah. So now there are many questions for Prakhar. His optional subject was sociology. So what was his rationale behind choosing that, and how can one cite daily life examples in questions? And also, is there a lot of rote learning in that?
Okay. So beginning with why I chose sociology, the major reason was that I was very familiar with the subject. Now at IITK, we have to do 5 HSS courses compulsorily. So for me, 3 of those were in sociology. That was one of the major reasons. Secondly, yes, the syllabus is also something which is very short and concise. You don't have to worry about it. And thirdly, it's very easy to understand. So those were the major reasons I opted for sociology as my option. Moving to the next question, how do we actually quote real life examples in the question? So for that, there are two approaches. The first one is that you actually, when you're reading up on different topics under the syllabus, if you can think of any examples while you're reading it, just make it as part of your note. It will help you. You'll be able to recollect it during the data processes. But this will not happen all the time. So you'll have to push yourself, write real life examples when you're taking up the test series. It will be difficult. I faced problems when I to come up with real life examples in my answers. But when you start forcing yourself, or when you make up your mind that you have to write real life examples, then it slowly comes into practice. And every test series typically has eight tests. So by the later test, you are able to produce examples if you have made it a habit. You could consider making them a part of your notes, but going to be difficult. The next best option is that you make it a habit and force yourself to come up with examples on the spot during your practice test. And could you please repeat the third question? Okay,
Is there a lot of rote learning in that?
So sociology, there's a lot of conceptual understanding you'll have to go through. All the concepts that we have in sociology, once you have understood them very well, you will not have a tough time with this subject. But you'll have to there are two things which you'll have to still memorize. One of them is the definitions. You do not want to compromise on the definition. You do not want to write the definition in your own words. That is something which will help you gain marks. Secondly, to make any answer sociological, in the sense that it is distinguished from a general studies answer of society section, you'll have to quote thinkers, the various thinkers that you will read in sociology, and that will again require rote learning or memorizing. But overall, I believe there's more of conceptual hearing which you'll require to make sure that you understand the subject. And once you understand the subject, memorizing also becomes a little easier, and a little memorizing or rote learning is going to be there in almost every option, even including math.
Yeah, thanks, Prakhar. So on a similar note, I had a question in chat that how to prepare for current affairs, and the students writes that mind revolves around various sources. Many times, some news on YouTube catches attention, and often it finds everything important. So please tell me your resources and how to manage them. Let's start with Rajat.
So that is very important. That's what I was saying. It is because it's a vast ocean of content out there. It is so easy to get distracted and to be confused about what should I refer to. Just make up your mind with one source, stick to that source, because eventually, even if they forget to write about that but one particular development in today, they will cover it at some point later. So don't be under the impression, because if you choose a good source, often eventually they will cover most of the stuff. And as far as what is relevant, that is why I said understand the main syllabus completely. That is the guide. That is the one-stop guide for you to understand the relevance of anything, whether or not it is relevant or not. You need to understand where this particular subject maps onto the main syllabus. Where which section is this particular subject relevant in? So that is why the main syllabus needs to be at your fingertips. Take a printout of the main syllabus, just stick it on your wall for a few days and just glance at it wherever you pass it by. It's very important to have a printout of the main syllabus. Nicely take one printout, underline whatever the points, important keywords in the syllabus, and that is how you will understand what is relevant or not. So limit your sources of current affairs, and YouTube, I would say, avoid. Text is very good because video often takes more time, in conveying the same thing in a few words they can convey in text. That is why I also avoided coaching, because in coaching often they take 3 hours to explain something which you can read in 1 hour by yourself, and it's time consuming. It's not it's cost benefit. Once you do the analysis, you see that it is not time efficient at all. So avoid videos, I would suggest. Read as much as possible, because reading is ultimately the most important thing for this. If it helps you retain better via video, then you may, of course, if you have some trusted sources, you may consult that. But as a general principle, try and avoid too many of YouTube videos, because often it's very irrelevant, and they are not making those videos for merely for UPSC folks. Often there are other exams, there are general interest video channels. So don't get into that. Stick to the core UPSC sources. If, for example, Insights on India or Forum IMS. So Insights on India, I would definitely recommend. It's a great resource.
Prakhar might want to add something on it.
Yeah, okay. So one of the basic thing about this exam for me was that I would not read anything which I was sure that I was not going to revise for at least 3 times, because then it almost becomes useless. You're not going to remember it anyway. So for this applies to current affairs as well. For me, the current affairs, the one go-to source for current affairs was the magazines by Vision IS. Those helped me. You could take up the magazines of Insight IS, Insights on India, or other coaching. That is all cool, but do not fickle around. Do not start with something on this particular month and then you're reading from somewhere else next month. Do not get into too many sources, because if you're not able to revise them, you are not going to remember them as well.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, now we are coming to the end of the session. I would like to, just ask the audience to either raise their hand or put their questions in the chat box so that we can take it up. And meanwhile, let's take a fun question and ask Rajat that what was his journey of hitchhiking, and any interesting experience you could share about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very enlightening experience. Like, I was around 6 months, I was on Indian highways, traveling with truck drivers, sleeping on the road, sleeping in their cabins. Like, it was a rough journey, to put it mildly. And there were various experiences. Yeah. In Kashmir, the fellow hitchhikers, they were these nomadic shepherds who had brought their goats along. And it really gives you a sense of, how really vast and diverse India is. I mean, you read about it all the time. India has unity and diversity. But when you encounter people like that living their daily lives, who have practiced these nomadic communities, they have practiced this for centuries, and you really get an appreciation of how diverse it really is and what it really means to administer and govern a vast and diverse country like this. So it gives you an appreciation of India. My experiences in the Northeast were also very enlightening, because it's a place that typically most people don't visit. So Nagaland and Manipur, the experiences are very memorable. They're still etched in my mind. And I mean, I covered almost over 20 states, apart from 3, 4 of them. So every state had something new to offer, some new learning. In fact, every person I encountered had something new to offer. And it's my firm belief that every person out there has something to teach you. Do not be under the impression that you know everything. It is important to have that humility, because even the most uneducated person has insights into life and the world which you possibly will never have, given our sheltered upbringings. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I would just like to ask, if did you both meet each other in college or some earlier than this?
No, can't say we have actually.
Yeah, I believe there's no intersection in our time at colleges. Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
and I believe that the most active batch in today's session is Y20. And if you just put a Y16 in this meeting, then we will have a hierarchy Y8, 12, 16, and 20. So that
Yeah.
would be awesome.
Yeah. Uh, One Sudhanshu is asking, like, can an aspirant write his essay and optional in Hindi and all GS papers in English?
I'm not entirely sure about
Yeah,
this,
me neither.
uh, but from what I remember, I don't think you can write some papers in one language and the others in
Yeah.
different language. But again, this is something you can Google and you'll get to this.
Yeah, so I had another question that there must be moments where you got some self doubt whether you are going to crack it or not. So how did you overcome that, and how did you stood up again and start preparing? Let's start with Prakhar, I guess.
Yeah, because I did I did have self doubt during the process, especially after I could not clear the prelims. I was not entirely sure if I had to continue the preparation or if I needed to explore something else. But uh, it was then that I knew that I needed to write at least one main so that I did not regret it. As I said in the beginning, I started preparing for this exam because I did not want to regret eventually 10 years down the line that I did not prepare. So when I was in doubt, I got back to the boardroom and I had to accept my mistakes firstly, because there are some mistakes which will, apart from all the luck and all the subjectivity that is associated with the exam, there are some mistakes you're making if you're not clearing a particular stage. So I sat down and again, this is where your friends or the people you're preparing with come in handy. We all sat down and they also motivated me, and that's when I knew that I had to prepare once more, and I did. I wrote the mains and I actually got into the list.
Rajat, did you face something similar?
For me, yeah, definitely there are moments of self-doubt like every month, I suppose, when you're preparing. So it's not it's part and parcel of your life. And that's why I used to just focus on what is ahead of me, what the immediate goal is. And I used to try and just don't think. Basically, introspection is your enemy during these preparation phases. Do not go into introspection, because once you start thinking about, oh my, where has my life brought me and what's going to happen, all these things will only create a lot of turmoil in your mind. So do not introspect a lot. Be focused on your goals and your daily goals. That is the only way to battle self doubt. The self doubt is part of the process. I mean, the guy who caught AR1, I'm sure he also had a lot of self doubt whether he's even going to make it to the list this time. So this exam is that unpredictable. There is no getting away from self doubt in this. So accept it as part of your life and work around it.
So if anybody else would like to ask any question, then he or she can raise his hands and we'll unmute you. Till that, like, do you have any memories of IIT?
So I definitely remember the campus very fondly because I during my campus life I explored everything there was to explore in the campus. I stood for elections for student senate. I was senator for some time. I tried my hands at being a mess secretary. Eventually, I got up into different festivals. I was playing football, and by the end of my student life, I was the festival coordinator. So all these experiences, I got to meet a lot of people in the campus. And see, it's not the physical buildings, it's not the infrastructure that you miss when you're out of the campus. It's the people you shared the journey with. So the good thing is that you always remain connected with the
Yeah, reading your senator manifesto would be interesting now.
people. It should be.
And I guess Rajat happens to be of that era where IITK used to be on the top. And so
Yeah,
Rajat,
that's true.
could you share
Wyatt, yeah,
some?
the AR1 in Wyatt joined IITK. Yes, that's true. So yeah, I mean, for me, I think the thing that I most fondly remember about IITK is just the freedom to be yourself. You could be as weird as you like. You could be anything that you like, and people would accept you often. Because there were so many eccentrics on campus, the kind of characters you meet, it's just yeah, it's incomparable. I've not had a similar experience after that. And of course, the kind of exposure you get. See, I was in the ELS. I used to be in the ELS quizzing. I was the reading room secretary of my hostel, and I was into reading and writing a lot even then. I used to write articles, so it used to be fun. And I mean, the friends that you make, your wingmates, they are the ones who really matter at the end of the day, and that they represent campus for you rather than, because I visited campus in 2018 or so, and I had one friend there who was doing his PhD, but the campus itself seemed like an alien place. It seemed like there are imposters who are living in your space, and you realize that the campus without the familiar people is nothing but a set of buildings. It's nothing. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah,
We
you
feel
can't
the same
recognize.
actually.
Yeah, you can't recognize anyone. You feel like ये
Yeah.
लोग कौन है, कहाँ से आ गए?
Yeah.
And it's like they're they're in your property or something, and it's
Yeah, totally.
so I guess Prashant has raised his hand. So Prashant, I would ask you to unmute and ask a question.
Prashant, your internet connection is not good, I guess. You might write in the chat and we'll take up that.
Yeah, please write your question in the chat box, and we'll definitely like to take that up. And
I
yeah, I
guess,
guess that sums it all.
yeah.
Uh,
Anything else
we have
if you
many
would like
questions
to share with us?
which are
Sorry, I missed the question. What?
Yeah, like anything else you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I would just like to sum it up that, just be sure of yourself in making the decision, and once you're in, just give it your best. Isme the most important thing is karm karo, phal ki chinta mat karo. That is most important, and that is the sort of attitude you need to have for this journey. And all the best. I hope many of you decide to opt for the civil services and are successful.
Prakhar,
Yeah.
some words from you.
Yeah, so while you're preparing for the exam, just don't bother about the uncontrollable. There are some things which are in your control, and that's your effort. So just focus on it. The results will follow if you have to. Don't bother about the results as such, and be very sure when you're getting to the preparation mode, because you have to devote some time for this exam at least. And yeah, just enjoy the process. If you don't enjoy the process, it's going to be very taxing. So just enjoy the process. You'll get to read a lot, and you'll get to read and learn about new things. So that's going to be one takeaway from the process, that is exam.
Sure. I personally had a great session today, and I guess most of the participants here enjoyed a lot. We had interacted with our alums, and it is definitely great to interact with your own alma mater, right? So with this, we conclude Indian Governance Summit 2021, and we will be coming up with our next sessions and events. And please follow our Instagram and Facebook and other social media handles to keep connected. And with this, we conclude IGS 2021. And thank you again, Rajat and Prakhar, for joining us today.
Yeah, that was really helpful.
Thanks, Rajat. Thanks, Prakhar.
Thank you.
Thank you.